Ducati just locked Pecco Bagnaia out of the most critical test of the entire 2027 era. Three-time world champion, gone. And the man testing the prototype at Brno on June 22nd is Marc Marquez. That's the story. And it's not what you think. Most people are reading this as favoritism. They're completely wrong. This is something colder, sharper, and far more deliberate than picking one rider over another. Ducati handed Marquez the keys to their secret 850cc prototype because Bagnaia is already walking out the door, and they will not let him carry their most valuable engineering secrets straight across to a direct rival. So how does a back-to-back world champion get locked out of shaping the very machine he'll battle against for the next 4 years? That's the question driving everything right now. And the answer exposes exactly how calculated Ducati's power moves have become. On April 13, 2026, Ducati's test rider Michele Pirro wheeled the Desmo Sedici GP27 onto the Misano circuit for its very first shakedown. No fanfare, no press. Just Pirro, the engineers, and a machine nobody outside that garage had ever seen run under real conditions. 9 days later, on April 22nd, Ducati General Manager Gigi Dall'Igna sat in front of reporters with a smile he couldn't fully contain and called the test very good. 2 words from the most guarded man in the MotoGP paddock. 2 words that told every rival team exactly what they needed to know. Ducati's 850cc program was already running, and they were moving fast. Because this 850cc shift is not a minor tweak. Starting in 2027, MotoGP mandates a full engine displacement cut, dropping from 1000 cc's down to 850cc. Ride height devices get banned entirely. Aerodynamic packages get slashed back, and Michelin tires will have to adapt to the new regulations. Pirelli takes over as the sole supplier. This is MotoGP's biggest technical reset in over a decade, the kind of regulation overhaul that historically creates new champions from nowhere while established dynasties collapse. KTM and Yamaha were already pushing their own prototypes before Pirro hit Misano. The clock was running. Ducati actually lagged behind their rivals in getting their bike on the track. Now they're protecting everything they built. If you care about where MotoGP is actually heading in 2027, subscribe right now. Because the moves happening off the track this week will shape the next 4 seasons, and you need to be watching. Which brings us to Brno. The post-Czech Republic Grand Prix test on June 22, 2026, stands as the first official private session where active MotoGP racers get to ride 850cc machines. Not test riders, real, competitive Grand Prix riders. The rules are explicit. Pirelli required that at least one of each manufacturer's allocated riders must be a currently active GP competitor. And every manufacturer gets a hard cap of 2 riders. 2. Maximum. Non-negotiable. So Ducati had 2 precious slots and a decision carrying enormous political weight, no matter how they filled it. They chose without hesitation. Marquez. And MotoGP talent Fermin Aldeguer. No Bagnaia, no invitation, nothing. In late February 2026, Marquez finalized his factory Ducati contract for 2027 and 2028, signed and committed. 11 days later, on February 21st, Bagnaia publicly confirmed he'd signed his own 2027 deal, widely reported across the entire paddock as a 4-year commitment to Aprilia. 4 years? At a rival manufacturer. His agent, Gianluca Falcioni, had quietly brokered the exit while Bagnaia was still wearing Ducati colors on his leathers. At Sepang in early February, Bagnaia stood in front of reporters and told them, "I believe I am a front-runner rider. Surely in the last 3 or 4 years, the contracts are decided much sooner, but it's like this. And honestly, I think it's correct." That line right there is a man publicly processing that his factory seat was already gone before the season even began. He didn't get fired, he got something worse. He got replaced before anyone told him officially. And now the brand he won 2 consecutive world titles for, in 2022 and 2023, won't let him anywhere near the prototype defining their entire 2027 program. Not because they doubt his speed, not because Marquez handles tire warm-up differently, because Bagnaia is Aprilia bound, and whatever he learns at Brno about the GP27's engine character, its electronics architecture, its aerodynamic behavior under 850cc regulations, that knowledge walks straight into Aprilia's factory the moment he clocks in on his first day. Ducati isn't being cruel. They're being ruthless. There's a difference. You deliver back-to-back world championships for a brand, and they bar you from the machine that defines their next 4 years. Because your loyalty has an expiration date, and that date already passed. That's corporate racing at its most cold-blooded. If this is landing hard, hit like. The algorithm needs it to push this to the people who actually follow MotoGP at this level. Now look at Honda. Their call with Joan Mir runs almost perfectly opposite, and the contrast is brutal. Mir signed to join Ducati's Gresini satellite team in 2027. He's leaving Honda. And Honda handed him an 850cc test slot at Brno anyway. The paddock went quiet when that news dropped. Honda officials shrugged off every question about it with 5 words: "We gain more than we lose." That's either supreme confidence in their own engineering secrecy or a completely different philosophy about open development. Either way, it puts a spotlight directly on how differently these 2 manufacturers read the exact same situation. Honda opened the door. Ducati locked it, welded it shut, and stood a guard outside. Only one of those responses tells you exactly where a manufacturer's priorities sit heading into 2027. Classic Ducati. The second slot going to Aldeguer is where the strategy becomes mathematically precise. He competes in MotoGP in 2026. No factory allegiances to rival teams. No paddock connections carrying sensitive data anywhere dangerous. He's fast. He's building toward a MotoGP seat, and his future runs directly through Ducati's structure. A blank slate with elite ability. Exactly what you want in the seat next to your franchise rider. When the prototype you're testing cannot leave that paddock in a competitor's memory. Both men's careers run toward Ducati, not away from it. Bagnaia's career, at this exact moment in June 2026, runs in the opposite direction. The math is that simple. There's one more layer here that almost nobody discussing this test has caught. Ducati isn't relying solely on Brno for their 850cc development picture. World Superbike star Nicolo Bulega has been running secondary test duties specifically because Bulega carries deep, race-proven experience on Pirelli rubber from his Superbike career. Switching from Michelin to Pirelli in 2027 isn't a simple equipment change. The feel changes, the setup philosophy changes. The way a rider builds tire confidence over a race distance changes entirely. Bulega gives Ducati data no active MotoGP rider on the current grid can deliver. Marquez handles engine and electronics development at Brno. Bulega feeds the tire integration picture from his Superbike background. 2 separate streams of 2027 intelligence, both sealed away from anyone heading to a rival garage. Genius. And where does all of this leave Bagnaia for the next 4 seasons? Fighting against a machine he never touched, built by people who replaced him, shaped by a rider who took his seat? His Aprilia deal reportedly runs through 2030, 4 seasons of racing against a Ducati 850cc that Marquez is scheduled to test at Brno, that Aldeguer will contribute data to, that Bulega helped tune on Pirelli rubber. Bagnaia had 0 input, no say. On April 27, 2026, at the Jerez test, Marquez posted a 1 minute 36.277 seconds, the fastest lap any Ducati rider put down on the day. That number isn't just a fast time. It's a statement about who drives Ducati's future, who earns the test slots, and who gets to spend a Monday at Brno turning the GP27 into the 2027 weapon Ducati will aim at everyone else on the grid. Bagnaia won in 2022, won again in 2023, back to back. The reward for that loyalty, that performance, those championships? He watches Marquez and a fellow MotoGP rider prepare to take the 850cc machine around Brno while he prepares to start over at a completely different factory. The man who built Ducati's dynasty isn't allowed to test its future. Who shapes the next chapter of MotoGP when you're locked out of the room where that chapter gets written? Not him. The 850cc revolution doesn't just change engines, it reshuffles who holds knowledge, who arrives at the 2027 season opener understanding the machine versus who shows up learning blind. Bagnaia will be learning, Marquez will be refining. That gap, to be built on one Monday in June 2026 at a circuit in the Czech Republic, could echo through 4 full seasons. That's not favoritism, that's not politics, that's power. Deliberate, surgical, unapologetic power. This is MotoGP Now, a technical revolution that sorts riders not just by speed on Sunday, but by who gets data access on a quiet test Monday. Ducati made their choice visible to the entire paddock and did it without a single apology. If this landed differently than you expected, because the 850cc era is going to keep producing moments exactly like this one. Like this video and subscribe. There is so much more of this story still coming.